Hello everyone, so today we're going to look at doing a bit of soldering. So on the Trailfinder 2 we have our winch run off a separate ESC, but they are both teed into one battery. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate them both. So the ESC has its own power supply. As you noticed, it can be a little bit laggy when it's bringing out and coming back in. So we're just going to separate them off and get them up to a small 2002 cell and see how it goes. So we're going to start by removing the body shell, which we've already undone. So we're just going to pop that off, just put it on the shaft out of the way. Okay, so here we have, we'll just get it in the shot, 2 ESCs, one running the winch, one running everything else. And as you can see, there's the power supply, and they are connected in together. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this heat shrink off here, separate them, put the Dean's plug on, then run them separately. So we're going to need a few tools for the job. Firstly is the soldering iron over here. We're going to need a craft knife to remove the old heat shrink. We're going to need heat shrink to put back on. A bit of insulation tape just so we can tie the wires up nice and neatly together, and obviously solder. So yeah, let's crack on. First thing we're going to do is we're going to just remove these pieces of heat shrink here. There's 2 here in the middle. This is where we've done the small joint to extend it, and up here at the sorry, put that back in shot. Up here at the T as well. So yeah, we're going to just remove these. We're going to have just 2 separate connectors, and hopefully can squeeze the battery to run the winch over this side where the servo usually goes for the 2-speed box. But I don't run the 2-speed box. I just keep it in low gear all the time. Because my transmitter is only a 3-channel, so I couldn't run the 2-speed and the winch, so I had to have one or the other, and then I opted for the winch. So yeah, let's get this done. Okay, so very carefully with the craft knife, you just got to just cut through the old heat shrink like this. So let's pull that off. Then we've got the heat shrink under here as well. So with the knife, I'm just going to slice through it. I'm only slicing through where it covers the actual solder joint. If I slice through there and slice too deep, then I'm forever going to be shortening the wire. So just slice through there like that, which is fine. And then the same through this one, just like that. So that's enough there, and then all I'll do is I'll just trim this off once I've desoldered it off, once I've desoldered the connector. So yeah, so I'm going to desolder there, and then trim this off. This device here is a handy thing to have. So this is called a solder mate, and it's just to hold onto the wires, saves you burning your fingers. I'll give you an example here. So just squeeze the crocodile glit, put the Deans into a position. And that's sturdy enough for me to just desolder straight off that now. Now a big issue a lot of people have with soldering irons is they struggle with heat transfer. Now I have a soldering qualification from a worldwide known company, and a lot of soldering is maintenance of the tip. Now if you run your solder onto the tip of the iron, and anywhere it doesn't want to stick to, now that's where the tip is dirty. And that's where you start to have issues with like heat transfer if it's dirty. So you can see there, maybe it'll focus on it. And what I've done is I've tinned the tip of the iron. Now I can see there that there's no issues at all there, so that tip is nice and clean and ready for good heat transfer. So another good tip for you, if you try and apply too much heat straight onto there, all you're going to do is you're just going to heat the plug up, and then the connector will become loose inside. So a good little tip is just put a little bit of solder on the tip of the iron, and as soon as you apply that on, the heat transfer will transfer straight through, because you're using the already melted solder on the tip of the iron, which will then transfer heat very fast straight through the solder that's on the old connector. So you won't have to sit there for several minutes at a time. So I'll give you an example here. This now, let me just reposition it. This tip now is dry of solder, and you saw how fast the last one came off. There we go. So my hand was probably in the way, but you get an idea there. That was probably twice as long, which isn't a big deal because it's only, you know, a small connector. But like I say, if you're applying too much heat for too long of a period of time, all it's going to do is soak straight through the metal and soften all this plastic up, which is an issue I had with this connector anyway, which is why I'm going to change it, because the tip in the iron before I changed it was a bit dodgy and was at the end of its life, so I had to, unfortunately, not do a very good job of the soldering connection whilst I waited for the new tips to arrive. But like I said, they arrived several weeks ago, so it was okay. So like I say, I didn't really do much with it, but now I'm making this modification. I thought, right, now's the time to change it, so let's go with the next step. Another thing I've got to mention, is when you stopped using your iron, it's still switched on now. All I'm going to do is literally just completely coat the end in solder like this. There you go. It's not really focusing very well, but as you can see there. So what that does is that prevents the tip from oxidizing. So if you put enough in it so the tip is covered, like that, you can see it's got a blob on the end. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to place that down safely to one side, just so it doesn't burn anything. So that now can just sit there for several minutes whilst you do other things, and let's say the tip won't get any worse condition. So let's say it's covered in solder. You can't see this, it's off shot, but whilst it's now laid down, I'm completely covered it so it has like a small blob fitted onto it. So now let's just carefully, so obviously be careful when you're doing this. You don't want to slip, cut your fingers, or cut through your fingers, or end up in hospital or anything like that, 'cause it's not good. So I'm just gently applying pressure, and if you notice the way I'm holding the blade, I've got my middle finger against the blade. So what I'm doing is I'm using my middle finger as the guide rather than just using the blade, because if you're just using the naked blade and you slip, you can go through your finger. That's why my finger is there, so if I slip, I'm not going to stab myself or slice myself with it. It's only going to be my finger against my finger. So just nice and gently. Let's say don't try and go through in one go, because that's where most people go wrong and end up injuring themselves. So I've gone through twice there, and just lightly, so I've just not quite got it there. There we go. So that's now peeled off. So there's one off. I'll go to the next one. Just make sure you can see what I'm doing. I'm just a bit conscious my hands are in the way. So same again, you can see I've got my finger up against the blade. Just gently across. There's no rush to get it done, which is why I'd say just a couple of slow strokes. So there you go, that's that one off. So now we have these two bare joints, you can see there. We'll desolder those now. So I'm not going to use the solder mate on this because I just don't need it, because I'm basically just desoldering the wire. There's enough length on these wires for the heat to not transfer through fast enough for it to burn my fingers. The same again, I've just placed a small amount of solder on the tip, and all I'm going to do is just place it straight against it. Now, because this is wire, this will take a little bit longer to heat up. So let's just be patient with it for a minute. See how it turns out. There we go, that's that one done. And then the same with this one. I do apologise, you can hear the purring. It's my kitten's currently climbing up my leg. It's going to try and say hello, I think. Oh, do apologise, everyone. Okay, so that's that bit done. So our next job is to cut through the heat shrink on the ESCs, and I don't think that's in shot there, so it's okay. The same again, I'm just gonna, finger on, just gently, slowly cut through. So again, don't apply too much pressure, so you don't want to just go slicing through your wires, because then if you've got a slice down the length of the wire and you've not noticed that you've done that, and you come to solder it all together and stuff like that and connect it up, if for whatever reason over a short period of time the wire should open up more, and it touches something else, you get it with a short circuit, you could blow your ESC, you could puff up a battery. Yeah, so just be careful when going through, like I say, that's why, just nice and gentle. A few strokes on, and then just over there. It should be okay now. There we go. So no damage to any of the wires. Not that you might not be able to see, but there's nothing at all. Okay, so that's those done. So we're just going to desolder those next. Okay, so let's just heat that joint up there. It has got quite a lot of wire to heat up in this, so it might take a little bit longer. It's now getting quite hot for my hand. Let's have a look. Oh, okay, I know why I can't get it undone. It's because what I'd done is I'd cut a piece off. So what I need to do is, just to be on the safe side, I'm just going to grab some of those pliers. And what I'm going to do is grab this wire from the other ESC, because basically I've spliced it in, is what I've done. So same again, apply some heat. Now obviously be careful when you're doing this, because you don't want to pull it towards you too fast, because if it's got a hot blob of solder and it flicks in your face, it's going to hurt. So that's disconnected from that. Now it's just going to be the same with the negative wire. Nothing again, just applying heat. There it goes. There we go. Okay, so I've just gone through my spare heat shrink over here, and I've realised I've not got any that's going to fit over that side. They're too small, they're way too big. So as a temporary measure, what I'm going to do is I've got some insulation tape. Now this is perfectly fine to do, providing it's done properly. So I'm just going to wrap around that joint where I spliced the other one in, like that, and I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one. So I'm just going to roll that around now, like so. Okay, so that is not perfectly ideal, having insulation tape on, but what I'm going to do now is, now I've got some of the bigger heat shrink, is I'm just going to cut a piece of that off, which will fit over both of those like so. There you go. So I'll just slide that down a little bit further. There we go, like that. So that's going to slide over there, and then I'll shrink that over right now. So a lot of people like to use the soldering iron to shrink that, but like I say, with it being so close to other plastic parts and whatever, I don't want to risk burning anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a bog standard lighter. Obviously do this away from your face and away from anything flammable. So you just run the heat up it like that. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same on this side. Okay, so there we go. So the heat shrink is now over that, so that now is completely safe. Obviously we've got insulation tape under there, which isn't what I wanted. Unfortunately I'm unable to get out and go and get any now due to the time of the night. So like I say, that'll do for now until I next need to take it apart, and then like I say, I'll make sure I've got some heat shrink to sort that out. So next thing we're going to do is, because the other battery's going to go over here, these could be long enough, I suppose. Let me go and grab the battery and have a look at that. So this is the battery I'm going to use, the little LiPo from an old drone I had. So it's a 2000 milliamp 2-cell LiPo, so like I say, that's just going to sit over here like this, which is perfect. And then hopefully, yeah, in fact, we're not going to extend these. All I'm going to do is just put a Dean's connector straight onto these, and should be good to go.